Hey guys, we are back with some more New Jersey Devils franchise mode, and in the last one, we struggled to start out the season. We really did. To start out, I believe the first 2 months in October and November, we went 11, 15, and 1, I think it was, and that really put us in a bad spot because we are still, even though we went 7, 3, and 1 in December, we are still 10 points behind of the Hurricanes, who occupy the wildcard spot in the Metropolitan. They have 48 points. We have 38. We need to do a lot of catch-up, and obviously the Canadiens, they have 45 points, so we're closer to them than we are to the Hurricanes, but we still are in a bad hole. And part of that problem has been the power play. We were sitting at, I believe, a 14.3. If I'm not mistaken, that is one of the worst in the league. I checked in these standings. We are 29th in the league for power play. We are also in the bottom 10 of the league in goal scoring. And our penalty kill and our defense is actually very good despite sort of low goaltending numbers. Our defense is one of the best in the league. I think we're third best. So it's definitely not our defense. It's just our depth scoring that needs to come through. Also, Gusev only has 5 goals since November 1st. Because when we first checked after the first month, he had 9 goals in 13 games. He right now has 14 goals. So yeah, 5 goals in 2 months for Nikita Gusev. He needs to step it up big time. And we just plain and simple need another month like we had in December. Otherwise, we're just not making it. And we especially need this game against the Rangers. We need this game against the Penguins. Really, against any divisional rival, we need those games. And if we don't come out of this stretch with at least 7 or 8 wins, how many games is this? This is 2, 5, 9, 10, 12 games in January. We need at least 8 wins out of this month. If we don't get 8 wins, I don't see us making the playoffs. So obviously, with our power play struggling so much, I have changed up every power play line. Gusev is now with Hughes and Barrett, and Severson is now on there in place of, I believe it is Slavin, who got taken off, and then Bykov is still there. Hall, Heischer, and Bajan with Falk and Boqvist on the point now. The penalty kill is untouched because it's been doing a pretty good job, but nonetheless, I'll show you guys the team stats here as the power play and our goals for really are not pretty when you compare them to the entire league. So as we sort by goals for per game, you see all those guys at the top, and we are in the bottom 10 with a 2.87 goals for per game. And our power play, as stated, is even worse. 14.7, we are 29th in the league. But when you take a look at our penalty kill, it's not all that bad. We are actually in the top 5 in the league, and our goals against per game, we're in the top, as I said, we are in the top 3. So defense is not a problem here. Neither is goaltending, apparently. Offense needs to step it up big time. Guys like Nico, Hughes, Boqvist, they've been doing fine. And even guys like Hall, he's had a pretty good season, but not as good as he could have. But then guys like Bratt, Gusev, Bellows, Palmieri, they really need to pick it up. So we're going to go this month here, and hopefully we get some better results out of this power play, because if we can't, then again, I don't think we're making the playoffs. And Nikita Gusev, we're starting things out with a conversation. Nikita Gusev is sorry for how he is playing out there. Well, I can't say I disagree with you there, Nikita. You've been very underwhelming so far this season. So yeah, we're going to agree with him, and maybe he has an idea of how we can help him through this. I've thought about it, and I think I need better chemistry with my line mates or more ice time to solve this issue. I don't know. Well, here's the thing. We've been on a pretty good winning streak, or not a winning streak, but, just a winning kind of month that we just had in December. But overall, the team hasn't been great, and he only has 5 goals in, 2 months? So we could also promise getting him some better line chemistry, or we could promise getting him some more minutes a night. So I don't know if I could promise getting him some chemistry, because I've basically tried all the possible line combinations, I feel like, And, this is what worked best for us last year. Now, I don't know what's going to work best for us this year. Obviously, we went 7-3-1 in December, so it worked pretty well then. But I don't know how it's going to work down the line throughout the rest of this season. I don't know about giving him more minutes per night because he's already getting second line 5-on-5 and I believe second line power play. So we would have to move him up to the first line and the first line power play. I don't know if I want to do that, especially given Hall and Hughes aren't doing too bad. I mean, I guess we could put Hall, Hughes, and Gusev together, but I don't know. Our team was kind of unbalanced whenever we had Hall, Hughes, and Gusev all together. Because it was all the offense on that one line, and then every other line basically dried up. For right now, I'll promise him more minutes, because that's the easiest thing to do. I can't exactly promise him better chemistry, because, again, we've tried basically every line combination possible that would even cross my mind. And I don't know about getting a new coach just yet, considering we did have a good month in December. We might have to get a new coach, but at the moment, it's just not something I want to do. But at the same time, I can't say I disagree with him. So for right now, we will give him more minutes tonight. Actually, Gusev is on the first line power play, so we'll see what that does, and we will continue on with the January simulation. So it's still a little bit back and forth here. We're roughly halfway through January, especially given that we have the break coming up. We've played already the majority of the games that are in January. We only have 5 left. So we started out with a couple of wins there against the Rangers and against the Blackhawks, and then a loss against Vancouver, overtime win against Calgary, 3-0 win against Columbus, but then it's nullified with 2 losses against Columbus again, and then Washington. So we're currently 22, 21, and 2. I would say this game against Pittsburgh may decide a lot of things. And Pittsburgh's a really good team. They are first in our division, and we are currently, I believe I saw 6 points behind of our divisional wild card. So Pittsburgh, this is going to be a huge game. Come on, boys. Get something going, please. Oh, Guy Bajin, you hate to see it. Injured till January 22nd. That's only about a week, I believe, from now. But still, at this point in the season, we can't afford any kind of setback, so that is going to hurt big time, especially since Guy Bajin was on our first line. So you know what? We'll get Gusev on the first line. We'll try it. It can't hurt at this point. And we will get Palmieri with Boquist and Nico, and then Bellows with Lundell and Bratt, and then Gurianov, Bykov, and I believe it would be Wilson getting in there. And okay, a 5-2 win against Pittsburgh. That is clutch. So how many points back are we currently? We are still 7 points back of the Flyers, and they have a game in hand. See, this is why we're going to have such a tough time catching up, because we've been winning a lot of games recently. I mean, not as much this month as we did in the previous month, but we're still kind of keeping ourselves in the race. But at the same time, we had such a rough start that it's just going to be such a nightmare trying to get back in. And the Montreal Canadiens also have 55 points, so we are 7 points back no matter what division we're talking about here. Although the Flyers do have 2 games in hand on the Canadiens, so technically I guess it'd be easier to catch the Canadiens, but we can't rely on other teams at this point to be helping us in the standings. We have to create our own luck at this point. And that's going to be by winning games. And if we can't win these 2 games against Winnipeg and Tampa Bay, and there goes Anaheim Ducks head coach Patrick Marleau. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. If you guys remember, Patrick Marleau was a Jack Adams winner, I believe, last year. Let's see. Let's go to the individual awards. Jack Adams. There it is. Yeah, this past year, Patrick Marleau was the Jack Adams Award winner, and he has just been fired by the Anaheim Ducks. Let's take a look at Marleau's coach profile, because it'll be really interesting to see what his overall attributes are, and maybe even if he can help this team out, then we should probably at least consider hiring him. So he's a B overall. He has a B for offense, B for defense, B- for power play, A- for penalty kill, a C for teaching, and a B for coach influence. So not quite the stats that our current coach has, or attributes I should say. He's good at coaching forwards, which makes sense considering he was a forward. And he has 182 wins, 156 losses, and 37 overtime losses on his head coaching career. And he actually has 2 Jack Adams awards. So it's very interesting that the Anaheim Ducks fired him. So as we take a look at the team fit, he has a team fit of 64%. He would help out with Hischier, Hughes, Hall, Fabro, Slavin, Gusev would really benefit from him as well. Bokus, not as much, but still about halfway. Bratt, a little bit more than halfway. Bellows and Falk would also really benefit from him. Severson and Palmieri, not as much. Lundell would actually benefit as well. Vukojevic, Guryanov, not as much either. Bykov would benefit. Pesci wouldn't. Wilson would. So overall, it's looking like Marleau could be a potential good fit as a replacement head coach if we need to. And he rolls 3 lines, so that might actually benefit us, given that he has an offensive coaching style. We are an offensive team. So this might actually be a good fit if we do, by chance, need to fire our head coach Robichaud. Patrick Marleau could be someone to keep our eye on. Hopefully, no one snags him up in between now and I would say the end of the month, because that's when we're going to have to make any kind of coaching decision. Because at this point, if we lose to Winnipeg and Tampa, then we're probably going to have to do something significant, and that might come in the form of a coaching change. And it's the perfect time to make a coaching change too, because this is when I believe that's the All-Star break. So that is the perfect time for a head coach to get in there, make some new systems, make some adjustments, do anything he needs to do to get the guys back on track. So if we do not win these 2 games against Winnipeg and Tampa, there is going to be a huge change, regardless of whether it's coaching or a trade. Something's got to happen. And Nikita Gusev is very happy that we kept our promise. Glad I could help you out there, bud. Now, we did win against Tampa, and they are in our conference, although it's not like we're really trying to catch them. I would imagine they're pretty high up in the Atlantic Division. Unfortunately, we did take the OT loss to Winnipeg, but we did get a point out of it. And the key thing is here that we are only 4 points behind the Flyers. Now, where are we behind the Canadiens? We are 5 points behind the Canadiens. They obviously... we have a game in hand on them, and the Flyers have a couple of games in hand on us. So it's going to be obviously much harder to catch the Flyers, I believe, in the end. Maybe not right now, but in the end, they do have a couple more games that they need to play and that they could potentially win. We certainly have our options cut out for us. We can make a trade. We can make a head coaching change. Well, you know what? Instead of player stats, let's take a look at the monthly performance so far. So in the first month, we went, 6-7? And then in November, we went, I believe it was 5-8-1. Last month, we went 7-3-1. And this month, so far, we have gone 6-3-1. So, again, we're winning for the most part right now. It's just going to be super hard to catch up. That's what makes this, I think, a difficult decision for sure. So, checking out the player stats, Hughes is up to 51 points. Same thing for Nico. Bokus is at 39, Hall 38. 30 for Beijing, 28 for Gusev, Bratt with 26, Lundell with 23, Bykov with 22, Palmieri with 18, Bellows with 15, Guryanov with 8 and 18, and Wilson with 7. And defensemen, Falk with 20, Slavin with 16, Fabro with 11, Severson with 10, Pesci with 9, Vukojevic with 8, and Hayek with nothing in 2 games played. Grubauer with a .905 save percentage, 4 shutouts, 17 wins, 17 losses, 3 overtime losses. Fitzpatrick has done a real fine job when he's been in there. .924 save percentage in 13 games, 7 wins, 4 losses, 1 shutout. Let's check our team stats. Goals for per game, we're currently at a 3.15. Goals against per game, we are currently sitting at a 2.83, so second best in the division. Power play, however, obviously needs to get better. I believe that number is actually a bit higher than when we last checked. I believe it was in the 14% range last we checked. Now it's barely 15%, so it hasn't gotten much better. But, yeah, I don't know. Something needs to change. Because even though we've been winning, it feels like there's way too many guys who are underproducing from what they should be. You know, Jesper Bratt, he's having, I believe, a career low year, at least as of this GM mode, you know. He's usually a consistent 60-point guy. He only has 26 points so far in 48 games. We're over halfway through the season. He's currently on pace for, it looks like 45 points. That is going to be, if that continues, that is a career low, at least for the purposes of this GM mode. That is a low for Jesper Bratt, going back to year number 1 when he had 47 points, and that's when he was still developing a little bit. And it also feels like Kiefer Bellows should be doing much better. I mean, obviously, he's not much of a point scorer to begin with, and he's on pace for about 25 to 30 points. But it feels like he could be doing much better, especially not only with the takeaways to giveaways, but with that +3 line chemistry with Lundell and Bratt. That line should be tearing it up, but it's just not for whatever reason. I mean, Lundell, we kind of expect it out of him at this point because he's just shown that he's a lot more of a defensive player than he is offensive. But I feel like Bellows and especially Bratt especially is what concerns me here. And then as well as Gusev, and he had, how many goals did he have when we last checked? 14. So he had 2 goals in the past, what was that? 9 games of simulating, 10 games of simulating? Ugh. And it's not like he's getting assists either. He's on pace for 50 points at most. That's rough. That's by far a career low. And it's not like he hasn't been regressing that much. I mean, I know he's got that top 9-4 potential, but he's still an 85 overall. He's got that 93 offensive awareness. He's got the shooting. He's got the puck skills. He's got the skating. I think it might be time to fire the coach. I mean, I know guys like Hughes, Heischer have been benefiting from Robichaux, but you know what? They could benefit from someone like Patrick Marleau as well. They really could, because when we looked at his staff chemistry fit, or whatever it's called, the coach roster fit is what I was trying to say. He basically has almost the same team fit as Coach Robichaux does, and for whatever reason, it has been working out with Emmanuel Robichaux here. And even though Coach Robichaux, he has some great, probably some of the best attributes for a head coach in the game currently. A+, A+. So it's certainly not because of his attributes that, the team's been losing. I think we may just need a new voice in the room. Maybe a new style of play in general. I mean, obviously, you have a forward coach in Cody Pietrangelo. You have a goalie coach in Drouin Deloria. You have Vigier, who's a generalist. He's going to help out as well. I feel like it might be time to fire Robichaux because there's just way too many of our guys that are struggling that shouldn't be. And the funny thing is, they're generally in the exact same positions as they were last year with almost the exact same roster. Minus PK Subban, there hasn't been much change. So I don't know if Subban really affected our simulation that much, or if it's just something else that's gone completely wrong here, but it looks like we may need a new coach. So starting out with Jackson Barrett, we're going to go through all the head coaches that are currently available for hire so that we can find the best fit for all of our star players, mainly is what I'm concerned about, and then as well as guys like Jesper Bratt, like Bellows, like Paul Mary, guys that drive our offense, because we are an offensive team. So Barrett is a physical style play. He's got a 61% team fit. Guys like Heischer, Hall, Boquist, Bratt, Severson, Bellows, Bykov really benefits from it. Wilson, Pesci. But the thing is, Hughes is all the way down there, way below half, maybe even below. I think that is actually below 1/4. That is not good. We do not need any kind of issues with Jack Hughes. We cannot afford to have one of our star centers to be playing that badly under a head coach. So we're going to say no to Jackson Barrett, even though he has some really good attributes on him, mostly as across the board. That's still, that is not happening under any circumstances. Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier are our main focuses when hiring a head coach, and that's not good. So Eugene Thornton, he's got a 59% team fit. He's got a balanced style of play. Fabro and Slavin would really love playing for him. Nico, he would benefit a lot. Jack Hughes, he would benefit quite a bit as well, but not as much as I think he could. So we'll keep looking here. Eugene Thornton isn't a terrible option, though, by any means. Although Hall, Gusev, Paul Mary, they wouldn't really benefit from playing with Thornton. So actually, I'm going to say no to Thornton as well. Jackson Weimer, Nico Hischier does not really fit within his roster scheme. Jack Hughes fits it a little bit. Hall fits it pretty well. Bratt fits it pretty well as well. Paul Mary does not. He's got a 63% team fit with the head coach focus of offense. But because Nico and Palmieri don't really fit it, I'm going to say no to Weimer. So Harrison McCarty, he's got a balanced coaching strategy. His team fit is 57%. And looking through the roster, there's way too many players that are way down below half for me to even consider McCarty, so we're going to skip him. Vince Kambits, he's got an offensive head coaching style. He's got a 67% team fit. Nico Hischier and Taylor Hall wouldn't really enjoy playing for him. Jack Hughes would absolutely love it, but Nico and Hughes are my two main concerns, and if either one of them is below half, it's got to be a no. And plus, there's a lot of other players as well that are below half. Falk, Hall, Gusev is, I believe, around half. Now, there's a lot of players that would really love playing for Kambits, such as Lundell, Pesce, Bykov, Wilson, but most of those players aren't really of our concern. What we're concerned about is Hischier, Hughes, Hall, Boqvist, Bratt, and Gusev, I would say, are, our main forwards, and that's not going to work for Hischier and Hall. We're going to say no to Kambits. Israel Davidson, right off the bat, I'm going to say no, because when you look at that roster scheme fit, no. Patrick Marleau, he is, I believe, the last guy on the list, and yes, indeed, he is. He's got the offensive head coaching strategy, 64% team fit. Hischier is good with them. Hughes is good. Hall, Fabro, Slavin, Gusev, all up there. Boqvist, not desirable, but it's okay. He's at around halfway. Bratt's pretty good with him. Bellows, Falk, they really would enjoy playing for Marleau. Severson's around half. Palmieri, not as much, unfortunately. Lundell, he's kind of up there as well. Bykov is up there. Wilson's up there. Out of all these guys, Patrick Marleau would definitely be the best fit. So now it's a matter of, how does that compare to Robichaux? So Robichaux balanced 67% team fit, and he has most of the team. Like, no one on this team is below half of the roster scheme fit. It's just not working for whatever reason. I mean, lately it's been working, but hear me out here. If we can find some really good chemistry with Marleau as the coach, and with, Hughes, Hischier, Boqvist, Bratt, get some +3s and +5s on the top 6, that would be deadly. And another thing about Marleau that we saw earlier is that he rolls 3 lines, because we don't exactly have a 4th line. I mean, there's Bykov, there's Guryanov, who's done all right, but overall, we're a pretty top-heavy lineup. I think we could really benefit from having Patrick Marleau as our head coach. So what we're going to do, we're going to interview Patrick Marleau before we give him an offer. So let's see what he is all about. So I didn't like all of Marleau's answers, but he's the best head coach on the market that fits our team. I know this is a big decision, but I feel like Coach Robichaux, it's just time for something to change, because we have been way too inconsistent with our success here in New Jersey. Year number 2, we won the Stanley Cup, obviously, which is great. But that was year number 2. That was 5 years ago. Year number 1, we did not make the playoffs. Year 2, we win the cup. Year 3, I believe we were out in the first round. Year 4, I think we missed. Year 5, I think we made it to the second round. Last year, we made it to the third round. But it's just been way too inconsistent. And then this year, we're on track to not make the playoffs. So it's been way too inconsistent. So we need a new voice in the locker room as the head coach. Patrick Marleau, we will offer you the head coach position. And with that being done, Coach Robichaux, we need to fire you. You gave us some pretty good years, and thank you for the Stanley Cup, for helping us win the Stanley Cup. But it is time to part ways. For right now, I will move our assistant coach Pietrangelo to the head coach slot, because the game, for some reason, won't let me go on without... all right, there we go. Interim NHL head coach. That works. So I believe what that means is that once Marleau joins us, Pietrangelo should be moved back to assistant coach. So that's all done. Hopefully, Patrick Marleau will help us out big time. Guy Beijing is fully healed and available to play in the team's next game. We'll definitely get him back into the lineup. And there it is. Patrick Marleau has joined the New Jersey Devils as their new head coach. How do you like that? So we are in a new era here in New Jersey now. We're going to hope that Patrick Marleau can guide us back to the playoffs. Renewed sense of hope within the organization, and we are going to see how things work out from here. So, yes, indeed, Pietrangelo did go right back to assistant coach. So, his best player chemistry, Hischier, Hughes, Vukojevic, that looks good. He doesn't have any low coach chemistry. So, once again, very good. Now, his team fit has actually gone down to a 60% for whatever reason. Not entirely sure why, but we'll see what happens as we go ahead in the season. And we will actually take a look at the lines to make sure we can get some of the best chemistry possible. So here are our new lines. We have Boquist with Hughes and Hall, Bajan with Hischier and Gusev, Bratt, Lundell, and Bellows stayed the same. They still got that +3, so we're going to see how they work out under our new head coach. And you got Guryanov, Bykov, and Paul Mary. Believe that stayed the same as well. Defensively, however, Slavin and Falk actually give you a +3 in line chemistry, so maybe that will make Slavin play like an 89, Falk like an 87. Severson benefits from playing with Fabro, and then Vukojevic with Pesce. Special teams, I don't believe I've changed, and you still got that +3 for each penalty kill line, so that's definitely very nice. And I believe everything else is the same as well. So just changing up the 5-on-5 lines and obviously making a huge change behind the bench. We'll see what that does for our fortunes for the rest of the season. And if we can't get ourselves into a playoff spot by, I would say the trade deadline, then we'll probably have to end up selling off some assets. Guy Bajan has been injured again with an injured shoulder till February 11th. I hate to see it. We'll get Guryanov on that second line with Hischier and Gusev because I want to see how that third line gels under our new head coach. Then Wilson in on the fourth line. And Guy Bajan is now back. And we have a trade to Anaheim, Wood and Smith, and to Winnipeg, Engren and Lorkainen. To the Islanders, McCabe and Sivanen, and then to the Rangers, Wahlstrom and Sherwood. So Wahlstrom goes to the Rangers as we are going to stop the simulation because I don't think the playoffs are happening. We are currently 5-7 under Patrick Marleau, and I think that just destroyed our chances at the playoffs. So we're going to see at least how our offensive guys have been doing, because if guys like Gusev and Bratt have been underperforming, then we may have to consider trading them, at least Gusev, considering he's on an expiring contract and he's old. So Hughes with 64 points, Nico slowed down a little bit with 55, Hall with 49, Boquist with 49, Gusev with 37. He has 22 goals now. Bratt with 35 points, Bajan with 30, Falk with 28, Lundell with 27, Bykov with 24, Paul Mary with 21, Bellows with 20, Slavin with 19, Severson with 13, Fabro with 12, Guryanov with 11, Pesce with 9, Vukojevic with 9, Wilson with 7, Hayek with nothing. And in goal, you have Grubauer with a 906, and Fitzpatrick's save percentage was destroyed a little bit, 907. Team stats, our goals for per game is at a 3.07. Goals against per game has gone up a little bit to a 2.93. Still kind of good. Power play has gone up to a 16.3. Penalty kill has gone up to an 80.3, so we're better for the penalty kill. So look at that. Patrick Marleau's team fit is actually up to a 68% now. So for the roster scheme fit, guys like Gusev are slightly below half, but everybody else, besides Gusev, Guryanov, and Vukojevic to an extent, are pretty good under Patrick Marleau. So I think with that, given that Gusev's roster scheme fit is below half, and given that he's been underperforming this year, and given that he has an expiring contract, I think we need to trade Nikita Gusev. So it's best to just move that out right now, considering we probably would have also had cap issues if we don't do this trade either. So we're going to move him to a contender. So I believe we have found a trade with the San Jose Sharks. Here we're going to be trading Gusev to them, along with retaining 25% of his salary, so that San Jose, they're in a good position to make the playoffs. If they want to make another trade to bolster their roster a little bit more, they can do it. And coming back the other way will be Philip Prospal. He is an 83 overall second line forward. Now, obviously, he's got 20 goals on the season for them. However, he's not really as prolific as a scorer as Gusev is. Gusev's been struggling this year, and he already has 22 goals. And he's a veteran. He's a proven leader in the playoffs as we take a look at his playoff statistics. 13 goals last year in 19 games, 5 goals the year before, and then during our cup run, he was point per game. So he is definitely going to help out the Sharks' run to the playoffs. And if we could get Philip Prospal back, a solid young power forward who can score goals, he can also get a few assists here and there. He's a -8 currently, So maybe he's not working out on his line, but what we really need is physicality and defense, and he brings both of that. He has 71 takeaways to 37 giveaways and 105 hits. I'd even be willing to trade for Prospal straight up, go Gusev for Prospal straight up. But there's also Stefan Havlid in here, who I want to see if we can snag up. And you know what, actually, because we're including Havlid, I'll actually include a draft pick in there. I'll get Carolina's second in there. So Gusev and Carolina's second for Prospal and Havlid. And Stefan Havlid, he is currently in his second AHL year. He's 20 years of age, 75 overall. We don't know his potential, but hopefully it is pretty good, as his trade value is also quite up there. So I would imagine it's at least a medium top 6 forward. And Prospal, hopefully he works out for us. Obviously he takes a lot of penalty minutes, but that just means that he plays very aggressive, which is something that I think we need. Gusev and a second for Prospal, and Havlid rejected. All right, so I will take Havlid off. And honestly, we might just go straight up Gusev for Prospal, because Prospal looks really good. But I do want to see if we can maybe fit a third in there. So Gusev for Prospal and a third. Will that work? No. So let's just, you know what? Forget the pick. We'll go Gusev for Prospal straight up. We're getting a much younger player here, and we're currently not in rebuild mode exactly, but definitely in need of a retool. And Gusev is a proven player in the playoffs, which I'm sure San Jose would love. Proposed trade, that will go through. So thank you, Nikita Gusev, for all the goals you have scored for us over the years, and all the clutch playoff goals that you've scored, the hat tricks from last year in the playoffs. Those were some good times. We also won the Stanley Cup with you in year number 2, but it's just, again, it's time to make some changes, some major changes here, because it just isn't working this year. So there you go. Prospal now slots in onto the second line with Nico Hischier and Guy Bejin. So we'll see how he simulates here with us in his first year with us. Welcome to the New Jersey Devils, number 81, Philip Prospal. And since we know that we are not going to be a playoff team this year, I want to trade Palmieri and Falk, who are both on expiring contracts as well, to the Florida Panthers in exchange for a first, Frolov and Jacobson. Jacobson is just a throw-in. He's 68 overall. We don't know his potential. He's 22 years of age. Frolov, however, is a depth defenseman already at 18 years of age, 78 overall. He's right-handed, so he may be a potential replacement for Falk. However, in our system, we also have, of course, Caden Lankow. So if one doesn't work out, then we could just go to the other. But do note that Lankow is a lefty, not a righty. So we could have a potential top 4 pairing of Lankow and Frolov. And then he also got the first round pick in there, because it's two very good players at the moment. Of course, in a couple of years, they're probably going to be retired. But for right now, they could really help out the Florida Panthers in their run to make the playoffs, because they still consider themselves a contender. Obviously, they don't have the greatest defensive core on paper, and forwards, they have some pretty great forwards, and goalie-wise, they have Spencer Knight. So I could definitely see it happening for them, especially if Palmieri and Falk get going there in Florida, but it's just not working out for us. So we are going to attempt to make this trade, and also we are retaining $2.6 million of Falk's salary. So Palmieri and Falk to Florida for a first, Frolov and Jacobson. Proposed trade, not sufficient at all. Okay. So instead of the first, I think we'll try a couple of seconds. If we can't do 2 seconds, we'll do 1 second. Proposed trade, rejected. All right, so we'll take the second for... the second for next year isn't going to be as valuable to us, because any player who we take with that second is going to take longer to get ready, and we only have, 3 years after this? So yeah, I'm going to take the pick for next year's draft off, and we will just go Frolov, Jacobson, and a second for Palmieri and Falk. Proposed trade, still rejected. So we've given them a fair offer. However, if they accepted it, they would have to put Jordan Schmaltz on waivers, which they do not feel comfortable with. So I guess we would, in order to have to make this go through, we would have to give them something additional. You know, since we're getting a prospect defenseman, we may as well give them a prospect defenseman back in return. Obviously, he's nowhere near as good, but we'll give them Dale Burrows. We drafted him in last year's draft. This should definitely go through. Proposed trade accepted. Obviously, we lost a prospect there in Dale Burrows, but he was only a 59 overall, and we gained a much better prospect, much more ready prospect in Frolov, who That's a huge benefit to us right now because we only have so many years left in the GM mode, and we were not going to be waiting for Dale Burrows for another 4 years or so when Frolov could be ready by next year. So Frolov, he's currently a depth defenseman. I think I want to play him in the AHL to start things out. Yeah, he's playing in the AHL with Springfield, so we will send him down to Binghamton. And one more major move that we are going to make, we are going to call up Caleb Wingels. I feel he is ready for the show. He's a backup goalie now. He's got a .910 save percentage on the year with Binghamton, and that's been pretty consistent. He's gotten better as the simulation has gone on. Obviously, he was kind of brutal in juniors, but now in the AHL, .905 save percentage last year and a .910 this year. 23 wins, 10 losses, 3 overtime losses, and 4 shutouts. So at 22 years of age and at 79 overall, I feel he is ready to make the jump. Evan Fitzpatrick for right now can be our third string goaltender, and we can put Caleb Wingels in there as the backup. Scratch currently are Jacobs, Wilson, and Fitzpatrick. We called up Graham Clark as well. And these are our lines for the rest of the year because, yeah, we're kind of in retool mode right now. It's pretty obvious we're not making the playoffs. So with that all being done, we may as well just simulate the rest of the season here. We have a trade to Dallas Stepan, a second and a sixth, and to Montreal Fleury, and 2 fourths. And Philip Grubauer has been injured with an injured hip till March 9th. And he is back. We will get him back in the starting lineup. And the Washington Capitals have fired head coach Tony Holt. And we finished the season with 87 points. We don't make the playoffs. That sucks. That really sucks. Let's check the final season stats and then we'll end things off. So Hughes led our team with 79 points. Then Hischier was 75. Hall was 73. Boquist was 64. Bratt with 55. Prospal with 50. How many of those came with us? 12 points in 22 games. Not too shabby. Would love to see a bit more out of him next year, though. Bajan with 46 points. That might be a career high. Yes, it is. Lundell with 40 points. So Lundell, it looks like Lundell really benefits from playing under Patrick Marleau. That is a career high for him, as well as the defensive side of the game. He had a pretty good year. Bykov in his rookie year, 34 points. Bellows with 25. Guryanov with 19 in 52 games. Clark with 7. Wilson with 7 as well. And defensemen, you have Severson with 29, Slavin with 26, Fabro with 18, Pesci with 13, same thing for Vukojevic, and Hayek with 2 points in 24 games. And goaltenders Grubauer with a .910 save percentage. So for the purposes of this GM mode, which historically has some very bad save percentages, Grubauer did pretty well for himself. And 7 shutouts as well. I mean, that's fantastic. 1 shutout for Evan Fitzpatrick with 8 wins, .908 save percentage, and unfortunately for Caleb Wingels, 8 games played, 2 wins, 3 losses, 2 overtime losses, and an .881 save percentage. Hopefully he'll grow into the NHL, and hopefully he can get some good growth over the offseason. So taking a look at the weaknesses of this team, it's certainly not for a lack of physicality on the back end. We have plenty of physicality on defense. As for forwards, we're really good at faceoffs. Hischier, Hughes, and Lundell all way above a 50%. Bykov, he started good, but started to slip throughout the season. I think we could use some more physicality. We could definitely use some more physicality at forward because the top guys for hits, the top 6 guys, all above 100 hits, but everyone else below Bellows has less than 50. Guryanov, 45. Boquist with 39, Bratt with 34, Lundell with 33, 30 for Wilson, 24 for Bykov, 7 for Clark. Yeah, we could definitely use some more physicality at forward. Defensively, with the ratios, Nico, Prospal, Bajan, Hughes, Lundell, Hall, all great. Bratt could be better, Boquist could be better, although Boquist did have a very, very bad ratio at one point this year. I believe it was 2-to-1 giveaways to takeaways. So that is much better than when we last saw. Bellows could be better. Bykov could be better. Guryanov, that was actually pretty good. 23-17. 16-23 for Wilson could be a lot better. And Clark could be a lot better. 18-6. Defensemen, I'm not going to count the ratios for them because honestly, as long as the ratio isn't out of control, then they're pretty good. I mean, Pesci, he was a +7 in a bad season. So I'll give him credit there. Vukojevic was a +4. Though we could definitely use some help with point scoring on defense, obviously, because Subban retired last year. We traded away Falk because he was making a lot of money and wasn't producing as much as I thought he should. So I think in the offseason, we should definitely target an offensive defenseman, and we need to target a physical forward for really any line, because beyond the top 6 forwards there, in Prospal, Hall, Hischier, Hughes, Bajan, and Bellows, only one of those guys is in our bottom 6. So yeah, more physicality on the bottom 6 for sure, because Bajan was on our top line, Hughes, Hischier, both in the top 6, Hall in the top 6, Prospal in the top 6. Yeah, we need more physicality on this team for sure, at least as far as forwards go. Again, the back end is fine for physicality. Where we need help on the back end is scoring. And then honestly, goaltenders, if Grubauer wasn't going to get worse with the potential, I'd say we could keep him, but we may have to consider moving on from Grubauer just because of his potential dropping, and he might drop in overall as well. Hopefully Caleb Wingels will be ready by next year, but I'm not going to count on it. So there's still a lot to fix with this team, obviously. It was nice winning that Stanley Cup in year number 2, but we had to make some significant changes because it wasn't working this year. So let me know what you guys think of all the changes we have made. I know it's a whirlwind of an episode, but let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one when we start the year 7 offseason with your New Jersey Devils. See you guys then.